NexGold is a development company that forecasts shovels in the ground by 2026 for its Goliath gold complex. It also announced a big merger today with Signal Gold. President is Morgan Lekstrom. Morgan, welcome to Kitco.
Thanks for having me here. It's great to be here.
Tell us about the big news.
What big news? What are you talking about? No, it's great. You know, one thing when we formed NexGold in July this year, we said we're going to build a development company. We're going to build a pipeline of assets, and we're going to have a path to 200,000 ounces a year. You know, we projected that can happen in the first 2 years. It happened in the first 4 months or 3.5 months, which is an excellent sign. The market reacted really well to it. We ended up getting a 2.5 million ounce M&I category, just amazing deposit with an unbelievable team that had needed something like this to happen. So now we're a completely de-risked company. We've got 2 assets that are permitted in Ontario and Nova Scotia, awaiting final permits, I should say, not fully permitted. Final little bits of permitting. IBA is coming, the impact benefit agreements for First Nations. So we're at a point now where we're going to be able to pick which asset we build first. Both are expandable. So really sets this company up for a strong road into that 200,000 plus ounces a year.
I think that came out in the news release as well. In red lights, don't be a single asset company.
Yeah, you know, that was something Frank and I had a lot of discussions about.
Frank Juster,
sorry. Yeah. We had a lot of discussions about it. Look, as a single asset company, any one thing can go wrong and boom, done, right? Your company's over. Whereas when you have a dual asset company like this with significantly de-risked assets that are what we consider at the bottom of the value curve, which means that they'd gone through the curve of exploration, they'd gone through the curve of doing all their studies and permitting. We're on the bottom coming out of it. This was the exact perfect time to consolidate these 2 assets, because that means we're going to be having a high chance of re-rating based on what we see in the cycle.
Let's go through it now then. Talk about Goliath right now. What is the stage of the project? What are you working towards?
Yeah, so Goliath's a 3 million ounce gold resource, Northwest.
Sorry, again, that was part of the NexGold assets, correct?
Yes,
okay,
sorry. The NexGold asset coming in was Goliath.
Yeah.
That asset has 3 million ounces of gold in it, 2.1 million ounces in M&I. What's unique about it is it's in an area that has nothing else around it for 250 kilometers. So I have no other mines for 250 kilometers, no other process plants, nothing. So we were coming out of our federal EA. We're in provincial permitting right now. We expect permits by Q2, Q3. We expect to be making a construction decision by Q3. Our base feasibility, our actual, what we call bankable feasibility study, will be out in Q1. So we're making not only progression, we're also drilling there to show that there's expandability on both the resources and discovery potential in the area. So it's going exceptionally well there. We saw this as a unique opportunity.
Talk about Signal. What is this asset and what are the stages there?
Yeah, so Signal's actually a little more advanced than Goliath. I mean, I said with Goliath was 16 months to shovels in the ground. The Signal asset, 3 million ounces gold, 2.5 in the M&I category, hugely expandable in the underground side as well, in one deposit area. They've delineated what we think is another large portion of this deposit. So that will be coming in the near future. They've already had great results this year. Again, I expect more in the very near future. And we'll drill a 40,000 meter drill program to show not only is this 3 million ounces, we think it's going to go much higher. The permitting should be coming in very short order. Their final IBA should be coming, or MBA as you call it, in Nova Scotia should be coming. So you've got this platform now with assets that are significantly de-risked that can drive forward quickly. In this type of cycle, with gold being where it's at, this is the ideal time to do this.
Talk about the team right now that you have with the 2 assets, because there was new announcements regarding the CEO as well as the operating officers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Kevin Bullock is the current CEO of Signal, and Jeremy Weiss, the current CEO of NexGold. I'm the president. So one of the interesting things is the complementary skill sets you got there. So Jeremy is a true blue mine builder. Like, he is the guy that you bring in, that you want the mine ahead of schedule, under budget. The last mine build he did, exactly like that, 35 years in the stable doing that. When you bring Kevin in, who's built companies, who's sold them, who's had success, sits on the board of B2, their skill sets were so perfectly matched that we're like, okay, Kevin, this is your platform. You have the platform to build a monster mining company here. Jeremy, we want you to build all the mines. And it was actually Jeremy that came up and said, look, guys, I'll be the COO because I want to dive into these two projects. And it was amazing to watch egos move aside and people look at what's best for the company. And I was so happy to see this. The board was proud and very happy to see this. So you're bringing in what Kevin's built as a team, which is absolutely phenomenal, amazing First Nations relations and government relations. And what Jeremy has built as a team, again, great government, amazing First Nations relations. You have two complementary teams that will now have succession plans in them, right? So as your company grows, you have succession planning that already has naturally been progressed in.
Are you funded?
Sorry?
Are you funded?
Yeah, so part of this was a $11.5 million financing. I'd like to always say, I would never launch a financing that was never fully subscribed. So Frank and others are taking a very large chunk of this. Given the nature of this company and the point in the cycle and the point where gold is and equities have not caught up, there is a lot of excitement. I mean, I'm writing a $200,000 check into this. And for me, that's a lot of money. So just, the management team alone with the directors, not including Frank, will write $1 million into this financing. So you can imagine that people are kind of phoning us now going, hey, can I get in? We have a very tight financing group. And one part about how well we're financed for this is we'll come out with, $15 to $20 million in the bank, but we will still have the ability to sell that royalty on Goldboro. It came without a royalty. The debt restructuring that we did in there, which was very complex, the debt holders on both sides, there was about $27 million of debt in combined companies. We got that down to 12 with a 30-month term. The max term we had left was a year and a bit. So really changed the dynamics of how this company is financed, but also gave us the ability to sell that Goldboro royalty, which is worth a significant amount of money on the underground and on the surface. So there could be a chance here that we sell a royalty on that and basically someone paid us to take this company in the end. So getting really creative on the financial engineering.
Morgan, let's step back and then let's just talk about this environment right now. So you're talking about getting excitement into the resource sector. I mean, we've had gold hitting several all-time highs. I think when I last looked at the GDX, which is the index of the gold miners, it's almost roughly tracking what's happening in gold, kind of like a 30% up roughly year to date. We're talking on October 10th as well too. When do you start to see some excitement? When do you think you start to see more generalists kind of come into this sector?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Usually in the cycle you would by now. So this is why there's opportunities like this out there. You can see some of the majors starting to re-rate. And you can see them upticking, the GDX moving up, the GDXJ not so much yet because of the juniors. I think there's consolidation that needs to happen before you see a lot of this retail and more generalists coming in. But interest has started to come in. You're going to see a change. I would say you have the counterbalance right now of risk tolerance. So you have a high risk investments like cryptocurrencies where people are like, okay, I can have an instant return potentially. Whereas in the gold space, they traditionally haven't seen that as much. I think you're going to see that flip. I think you're going to see the generalist investors come back in. You're going to see what's happening with BRICS right now, starting to say, hey, we need more gold. Russia, China, everyone's starting to buy more gold. What do you think is going to happen to development stage gold companies that are on a track to get to construction or production? They're going to go insane. This is my prediction, not my company's prediction, just to say. I have to forward-looking statement that a bit. But you can't hold an industry down that has such pent-up demand because you see exactly what happens with the gold price. I think it's going much higher. It could stabilize around this price. But man, we're in this space where I'm 39 and I'm sitting there going, I'm all in. Like, this is wild.
What are investors asking you right now? What are they asking the resource companies right now? We were through that long period of time where we had subdued gold prices. So you had a lot of caution, you would say. There was also the overexuberance that we had last decade as well, too, where you had a lot of companies that overextended themselves and ended up with some debt problems. Are we still seeing that investors are asking to be careful right now, or are they saying that now is the time to start growing?
I like to reference Frank Juster on this one. Frank generally only steps into this type of market when he's like, okay, we're 6 to 8 months out, maybe a year. And he's done this over and over and over. So I definitely will follow someone like his lead that knows how gold cycles work, how macro and microeconomics all interact together. So I do think there's been a lot of beat up investors in this space, coming in that have, maybe the over exuberance in companies that over leverage themselves, or just they go up and down too quick, right? That's not our goal. Our goal is to create a real company that has a path to re-rate and has that path forward. And I say that because it's so important that when you look at the dynamics of a company, does it have a sponsor? As Rick Rule would always say, must have a sponsor or I won't sponsor. So good call. You also look at the other side of it, where do you have a responsible management team when they're all put together that can execute and make the tough decisions, right? I think I said today in a Twitter post that, I grew up in an environment that say, do what you say you're going to do, right? And I'm a huge believer in that. I grew up in a farming community in northern BC. And every time I was projecting to do something, my dad was like, if you can't do it, don't say it. Just do it then and prove people wrong. So that's something I value in actioning in this type of company. I also value that in the space. People like Frank, they're doers. Frank comes into a company, says, we're going to build a gold company. And all of us have to build a gold company with Frank. So we're like, great, this is a lot of hard work. But I'm a big believer that our industry said too many times we can do it and then never did it. Whereas what I'm proud, with this merger coming out today is I said we're going to build a pipeline of 200,000 ounces per year asset. And we've done that within 3 months of closing another merger. So, I like to say, follow the people that do what they say they're going to do. And Frank is definitely someone I look up to in that sense. He's never done something he said he wouldn't. So I think that's the type of people you follow in this industry.
Lastly, Morgan, what's the next 12 months? What are the milestones you're hitting? I know this is not a fair question, Morgan, because obviously you hit 2 milestones right now, which was the merger with Signal as well as the financing that you had. But in terms of advancing both projects, what's going to be the news flow? What our investors can look forward to over the next 12 months?
So out of Goliath, our Ontario project, again, near-term permitted, near-term shovels in the ground. You'll have the feasibility coming out of that. You'll have results from the drilling campaigns. You'll have potentially IBAs signed. You'll have construction decisions into Q3, results in through there. Out of the project that we just got, and here's the interesting one, the company that we're folding in, that has a huge catalyst base. If you look at the drilling that Signal did, it's delineated a lot more high-grade areas. So we're going to go back in there and we're going to start drilling it right away. We're going to hit this thing with like a huge drill program. We know there's more there. It's clear. It's been shown. It's not like, hey, there's there. No, we actually know it's there. We've drilled it. So we're going to start catalyzing that really quickly, update the feasibility study, those types of things. And again, put them on the same track. We're doing a low burn method here where right now you've got 2 assets that really just need a feasibility study done. We have one that's almost done. The Goldboro asset had one done. It just needs updating to modern current prices. And we will be able to make a choice on which asset we build first. So it's kind of like the brotherly contention in a twin relationship. They're all vying for the parents' love. This is a really unique position to be in where you have 2 solid assets. So a lot of news flow coming out, a lot of milestones coming up here shortly. And I'd say stay tuned. It's going to get even more interesting.
Morgan, we appreciate you making time on what has been a very busy couple of days.
Anytime.
My name is Michael McRae. You're watching Kitco Mining.